which is the rise of misinformation and how to protect ourselves from this misinformation. It's kind of ironic that we got how many trials going with judges acting crazy?
All of them, really.
One in Wisconsin, one in Georgia, and probably more. Anyhow, what we can do, ordinary people, to combat it on a local level. I'm a retired English teacher, so I gotta have a quote. It's like if you're a preacher, you have 3 points and a prayer. That's your sermon. Okay. Anyhow, according to Rebecca Solomon, writing for the Guardian, used to be Manchester Guardian, that's the Guardian, she says if you live on a diet of mainstream news, which focuses on celebrities, elected politicians, and reserves the term powerful for high-profile and wealthy individuals, you will be told in 1,000 ways that you have no role in the fate of the earth beyond your consumer choices. In other words, you really need to lose weight. You should look like Kim Kardashian. Oh, yes. Obviously, there's a foolishness. There's a foolishness. Or Kanye, I guess was guys. Josh exemplifies young people who resist this kind of fluff social media and canted journalism. Instead, people like Josh step up and carve out careers for themselves while making us, their parents, both very scared and very proud. Josh?
I am vaccinated.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a lot easier for me to breathe. I am not a public speaker at all. I've had 2 college classes on public speaking, and that is it. So if I am all jumbled up like that, all right, just bear with me. Just touch base with a couple of things he said. Andrew Yang was kind of my only step into politics. For the years I've been alive, politics has just been like everyone else. Like, I don't want to talk about that. It seems really stupid. But after in 2015, 2016, I kind of had a wake-up call. I was working for Charter Spectrum, and I was giving the internet to people that were very irresponsible with it. I'd come back to a job, and they'd be like full of malware on their computer and stuff, just like terrible, terrible things. And I don't know, it just kind of like ate at me that I was like providing internet service for people that weren't being taught how to use it and weren't being taught the safeties or the dangers of it. So consciously, I got really, I guess, that fight with myself morally about it. So I eventually quit. I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And the 2015, 2016 election was kind of like the tee-off for that, because I was susceptible to misinformation. I was following propaganda instead of following what was actually going on in the country and what was actually going on in politics. And I kind of told myself that would never happen again. I would never be tricked like that again, because it was really disheartening. Because I felt like I'm a pretty smart person. I felt like pretty collected, down to earth, but to be tricked by, just to put it in perspective, no one wants to hear this, but I did vote for Donald Trump. And it was because of a push of media that came through my newsfeed on Facebook, came through my newsfeed on Reddit. I mean, every second of my life on the phone was just like, oh, Donald Trump's the best president ever. This guy's the greatest guy in the world. And like all the media that I was consuming was saying that that's the way it was. Obviously, that was not the way it was. So, I've got some slides. I hope I have about 30 minutes. Does that sound right? We're going to talk about Facebook. How many of you guys have Facebook? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 13, so 9. So, I mean, we're looking at about 75, 80% of you guys have Facebook. How many of you guys know how Facebook makes their money? Yep. Yep. We are the products of Facebook. The whole point of it is they sell ads, or ad companies sell their ads to Facebook, and Facebook shows them to us. So there is no product that Facebook is building. Its only just sole purpose is to keep your attention. And on smartphones, that attention span can be tracked extremely easily through your camera. You can actually detect how long you're looking at a page. It can detect how long you've been scrolling through something. It can, when you hit a like or a share button, it can detect, and it'll keep that profile view of, oh, you like playing hockey, you like cars, you like mechanics, you like all these different things. And what it'll do is it'll send that information through a network, and it'll try to suggest things to you. Does anyone use TikTok? This is the easiest one.
Good.
A little too old for TikTok, got it. I understand. TikTok is very good at it. You do? Okay. TikTok is very good at it. If you download TikTok and you spend 30 minutes shuffling through it, it will learn more about you in that amount of time than if you spent 24 hours with somebody and just start talking. It can learn your favorite color just off of how many times you looked at something on the screen of that color. That sounds really wild, but there's algorithms that do that. There's tons of stuff that Facebook does. But anyway, Facebook is if anyone doesn't know, Facebook is an online social media platform where people can create profiles and share information such as photos, quotes about themselves, to respond or link to the information posted by others. We see that every day. People share news stories every single day. People share their family pictures, they share their dinners, they share everything.
Right.
That information is being absorbed by Facebook and being sent out all across the globe to help suggest things to you. Facebook was founded in 2004 in Cambridge, Massachusetts by Mark Zuckerberg and 4 other people no one seems to know. Facebook was called to Congress in early 2018 and again in 2021. Would anyone like to guess why?
With the information they're giving out.
Yeah, data breaches. They all the time leak our data and it gets out, and that could be anything.
Right.
So one of the big things on Facebook is misinformation, and they sent this huge campaign about it a while back ago, saying that they were getting rid of all these different bad sources that people were sharing, and it turns out they actually weren't.
Right.
They weren't getting rid of anything. So misinformation is a huge problem in society that I see, and one of the biggest dangers, one of the biggest reasons I was so involved with Yang is because he was so adamant about securing our data, and nobody else was talking about that. But misinformation is used as a noun to mean false or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. So basically, it would be me going outside and screaming that the sky is green, and no matter what you say, it's green. I don't care what you say.
Right.
Some other synonyms for that is fake news. We've heard that plenty of times. Disinformation, distortions, half-truths, fabrications. Here is an example of misinformation that's gotten out of hand. And I'm sorry, I'm a millennial, so there will be memes in here, and I just have to accept that. But this is an example of how far some people have actually gotten from reality. So let's play this. It's kind of funny. I thought it was funny.
Alright, boys, here's the plan. We release a fake virus onto the public, and this just shuts the entire world down. Then the world economy tanks, and you guys all lose billions of dollars. And that goes to the private corporations too. You guys are gonna lose a ton of money. Then we get every single doctor, scientist, health expert, and everyone else in between across the world to all collectively lie while simultaneously overrunning the hospitals. Then, after millions of your people have died, we got them right where we want. And how's that? Well, first we get them to wear masks. Then we make them get a vaccine. Then we put a microchip in it. No, that technology doesn't exist yet. Plus, I haven't know any smartphones. For population control? Well, that would go why make the vaccine. Plus, those guys already own everyone anyway. So who would that even benefit? So then why are we doing all this? Obviously to mess with Republicans. Okay, I get it. Alright, yeah, that's cool.
that's pretty common talk on,
Yeah.
well, it used to be on Harvley and stuff like that, but since those things have shut down a little bit, it's been a little less talked about. But lizard lords are definitely no stranger to the conspiracies, theories. 53% of people get their news from Facebook, according to Statista, whatever, last year. It's a little bit better this year, I checked, not too bad. But you gotta think about it. Most people wake up with their phone and they don't really watch local news anymore. They might not even have cable TV anymore. So where do they get their news from? Social media apps. Social media apps are owned by most of the same corporation. I mean, Facebook owns WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Messenger. I think it owns a few more smaller ones. But basically, if you're on any of those apps, it knows, it transfers that data in between each of those apps. So it knows a lot about you. And when you give a company like that the ability to feed you news and information, you need to be able to trust that source. And for a long time, that was not the case. So, do you think misinformation is dangerous?
Yeah.
What would be right now, what would be a good example of misinformation getting out of hand?
About the vaccine?
Yeah, the vaccine's a big one. When on a personal basis, because I like to research everything, when Operation Warp Speed started, that was when I needed to look into the vaccine, because I wanted to make sure that administration wasn't doing anything dumb. So I followed it very closely, and then when Pfizer finally did crack it, and they started talking about it and putting in the FDA approval and stuff like that, reading white papers, which if you don't know what a white paper is, it's like the solid foundation of a company or a business or anything like that. Cryptocurrency is great. You can read every single white paper on them, and it mathematically shows you how the currency runs. The white paper of a company like this are supposed to show you how their algorithms work and stuff like that. But the vaccine was, a lot of people were really skeptical of that at first, and I did my best trying to talk to people about it, that it was okay, and that, all the higher ups were taking it. If they take it, chances are it's gonna be okay. And really, the kicker for that was there was a lot of misinformation coming from the Republican side that was really pushing it to the extreme, and that was a good indication that it's probably okay. Alright, so this is a short visualization. Well, it's not, it's like a minute long. It's a short visualization of the impact that the United States took as misinformation and COVID started spreading around. And I put it over, well, first off, let me tell you this. I made this to kind of put the seriousness in it. We talk about misinformation being a bad thing, but until you really start looking at the mental capacity that has on people and the danger it poses to the rest of society, you don't really know what's happening. So I put kind of some really, I guess, triggering things in here. I didn't put anything like, gross or anything like that, but some pretty, I would say, this woman's trying to convince her mom. Well, she's 14. She's trying to convince her mom not to take ivermectin or whatever, the horse dewormer, as a COVID solution. And you can just hear the heartbreak in her voice trying to talk to her mother about this, and how her mother just fights back with all this crap, just pure nonsense. And there's
and it's just proven over and over and over again that people that take that at the very beginning of the COVID sickness is well within 2 to 3 days. And they don't suffer all the crap and the death and the need to be put on a ventilator. I mean, they're well. They're cured. And you don't want to take a cure. That's unreasonable, man. Unreasonable. I have prestige doctors that are prescribing it and have nobody that gotten sick more than 3 days on COVID. It goes on the jacket. They're not 2-year-olds, 8-year-olds. No, they're not. They're professional, big ass, way up there with all these credentials that you don't even want to listen to. Just because the media wants you to listen to their side. Y'all don't even listen to the other side. I have heard y'all's side, but y'all don't even listen to my side. It's outrageous. And now y'all are taking time bombs walking around with that shit in your body. Taking damn time bombs. So when you get COVID, it can be deadly for you. If I get COVID, not so much. Deadly. The ivermectin can kill. Also, the things that it's producing in your body because it's generation antibodies, those proteins are developing in your body right now as we speak. More and more and more and more of them because you put it in your freaking body. So they're just going off on your body. So within 2 to 3 years, population, 90% of the population that took the virus, unless they come up with the vaccine, unless they come up with something antidotal, you're gonna die. 3 of my children. 1, 2, 3, all 3. Okay, well, why don't you wait 2 to 3 years and we'll see. Okay, no. Will you eat your words? Unless y'all continue to take the vitamins. They said right now, if they will get on a high regimen of vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and quercetin, I can show you one so you can pronounce it right.
The federal administration is trying to do is shove it down your throat.
What are they shoving, the science?
So, to me, that's really worrisome. I've been in a ton of houses with Spectrum, and I know there's a lot of people like landlocked to their house, and there's a lot of people in mental health crisis, really. And that's where this misinformation really plays a toll on people. It really starts subjecting them to what's called an echo chamber, where all your information is basically confirmational biasism. And when you get that far, it ruins people's lives. There's a Reddit page dedicated to people that's lost their family members over either political status over the last few years and or just from the craziness of QAnon or vaccine mandates or anything like that. And it's really disappointing that we got that far. And it starts with, I always bring it back to Cambridge Analytica. In the 2010s, personal data belonging to millions of Facebook users was collected without their consent by a British consulting firm, Cambridge Analytica, predominantly to be used for political advertising. The app, This Is Your Digital Life, which was ran on Facebook, that most people didn't even know was on their Facebook. It was just like one of those things where it's like, oh, what's your favorite colors? What's your favorite? What kind of car did you drive? And they answered the quiz, and then it downloaded this app within Facebook. The app consisted of a series of questions that built psychological profiles on users and collected personal data on the user's Facebook friends via Facebook's Open Graph platform. Now it says built psychological profiles. Has anyone seen The Social Dilemma? It's on Netflix and it's a very good one to watch. They kind of explain how they mine the data off of you and what they used it for. But the psychological profile means that what they're doing is they're building a version of you digitally so that they can market towards you in this world. And the reason being is that data is more expensive than oil now. I think it happened in 2017, might have been 2016, but at some point data actually surpassed the market cap of oil. And that's a pretty big deal. We see the data same transformative wealth-creating power that the 19th century visionaries once sensed in the crude black goods tracked underground. If crude data can be extracted, refined, and piped to where it can impact decisions in real time, its value will soar. And if data can be protectively shared across the entire ecosystem and made accessible in the places where analytics are most useful, then it will become a game changer, altering the ways we live, work, learn, and play. So, on one side of that, it's not that bad. Technology shouldn't be viewed as being evil and stuff like that. Really, getting our data to suggest, what you should buy next is kind of helpful. if you're into baseball, you don't want to be given a whole bunch of hockey ads, you know, and vice versa. So it's not all bad, but the fact that they're mining it without our consent, and really we don't get anything out of it. I mean, every piece of information you put on there is theirs now, and they don't pay you for it. I mean, in what other sector do we do that?
No,
Yeah. So data is any information you put online, and I mean anything. From names, bank account details, addresses, social security numbers, email addresses, phone numbers, photos, or has anyone ever done one of these quizzes where it's like your first job title, your favorite food, your favorite color, you know, where you're from, your favorite singer, band? If you ever on Facebook and you come across one of these, it's a phishing tool. They're trying to get your passwords, information, so they can take random guesses. And algorithms are very good at it. It's not like a human who has to sit there and type in, well, they like baseball, so we'll try the Braves, they live near Atlanta. Yes, sir.
What you got at there sounds like security questions that are supposed to give you more, of a firewall
Yeah.
and, bank account or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of the secondary security questions unless it's an authenticator, which is an app that it randomizes numbers every like 30 seconds so that you can log in securely. But you're right, a lot of these questions are the same questions they use on there, and that's why they make these things, because they're trying to get an idea of what your password might be. Because once they have your password in one thing, they probably have your password for a lot of things. Because most of us don't put down more than 1 or 2 passwords for things like Google, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So what do they do with all your data? Well, like I said, they send you ads, non-stop ads on everything. You cannot escape them. They're on YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on your news site, you go to NBC.com or whatever. You're going to have ads targeted towards you on the side. They use every bit of information to target you to ads. They also use your information to influence people and how they vote. This is what was really terrifying to me, was that in 2016, 15 and 16, Ted Cruz used Cambridge Analytica to persuade voters in his district to vote for him. And it worked. Donald Trump hired the same team before they got caught. That's really disappointing because, like I said, they target undecided voters and then they send them all this information to try to persuade the way they vote. And that is a real danger to democracy in itself. Being these tech giants, and it's not just the tech giants themselves, they are responsible too, but it's mostly people who have money and want to remain in power. And that goes for either side. So, oh yeah. It's hard to read down here in the corner. But it said this was Cambridge Analytica's, their statement when they were around. At Cambridge Analytica, we understand that every customer, every cause, and every campaign is unique. That's why we help you connect with every member of your audience on an individual level in ways they engage, inform, and drive them to action. That is terrifying. It drives them to action. So in that statement, they're actually saying that they have a way to make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And that's extremely evident in today. These are all real screenshots from my own phone, from people that I know and or am friends with on Facebook. And some of them are just awful. We obviously have stuff about George Floyd. We have stuff about the Black Lives Matter. We have stuff of, this one's from Honey Pass, South Carolina. The guy's in jail now. And he's just talking about RPG being dead. And he was going to throw a racist party for it. That really made me mad. And that's like, I live 10 minutes from there. So it affects my community to a point that it starts to blossom. And it's not just, 1 or 2 people that, are going to be isolated. It'll spread, and it'll keep spreading. Now you guys know this guy. We all seen the picture of him. Who knows what QAnon is? Okay. QAnon started on Reddit, and believe it or not, I was there. I watched, 2015 is when it started. He started posting what he called on Reddit and 4chan. And at that time, I actually warned people. I warned my mom and dad. I had a buddy message me with some crap, and I had to warn him. That wave of misinformation and the hashtag Save Our Children just really exploded all over Twitter and Facebook and stuff. So if you were around on those platforms a year ago, you would have definitely seen people, tweeting them or sharing them or whatever. And it was nothing but a propaganda machine. It was nothing but the hashtags carried, all these videos and conspiracy videos on YouTube and all these fake websites and things. And it was really disheartening to see. But this guy, he talks about Q. You might not be able to hear it. It seems kind of quiet.
Those of you that don't know who Q is the highest levels of the military and intelligence community in the United States, disseminating above top secret information to patriots in our republic so that we can take back our country from communists and globalists who have infiltrated our government, some of the highest levels and some of the lowest levels in the case of pollsters. And they're trying to bring down our country from within so they can create a new world order and local government where America is wiped off the map and they try to trump our Constitution with international law. But it ain't gonna happen. Because Q, being the antithesis of the deep state, has woken up the American public. Q has woken up the American patriot. And United
And this guy really believed this crap enough to storm the Capitol. And now we have representatives on the right that are QAnon fans.
Three little crosses, and that's how he signed off. Now, he signed off with 3 crosses in a row, on November 6th, and within a matter of minutes, President Trump, in his tweet right after that, on November 6th, he put, it was 7 minutes later, Trump put 3 little crosses on his tweet. And it was not, it was just more than a coincidence.
That's crazy. And here's some January 6th footage that really shows people that are just going nuts over this. And you have to think, how did these people get so radicalized to just get up that morning and decide that this is what they were going to do? And it's a pre-planned thing. I don't care what they say. It was all done pre-planned. I've got a terabyte full hard drive data of tweets and everything you can think of from the representatives that were part of that. And it blows me away just how radical people got.
Same thing.
What's bad? I was in the hospital that day from stress. I had to go to the hospital because I was stressed out so bad. I warned my parents the night before it was coming.
Well,
They don't even know what they're talking about half the time.
It's returned to becoming a prison island all over again. It's now a new penal colony as a prison. There's no racism in the United States. There's no racism. Now they've recreated it.
Crazy. It's the gradual, slight, imperceptional change in your own behavior, perception, and reality. That's the terrifying part about misinformation. And it can happen to literally anyone, because it happened to me. Here's a good video of a whistleblower from the other day talking about
We
Facebook.
certainly do not design the product in that way.
Facebook has realized that if they change the algorithm to be safer, people will spend less time on the site, they'll click on less ads, and they'll make less money.
The research that we've seen is that using social apps to connect with other people can have positive mental health benefits and well-being benefits.
Facebook's own research says as these young women begin to consume the same sort of content, they get more and more depressed, and it actually makes them use the app.
The way we design our algorithms is to encourage meaningful social interactions.
Its own research is showing that content that is hateful, that is divisive, that is polarizing gets engagement or reaction.
But election interference remains an ongoing threat. We continue to improve as part of our ongoing commitment to supporting the civic process.
They basically said, oh, good, we made it through the election, there wasn't riots, we can get rid of civic integrity now.
We strengthened our enforcement against militias and conspiracy networks like QAnon to prevent them from using our platforms to organize violence or civil unrest.
But after the election, Facebook was used by some to organize the January 6th insurrection.
There's plenty of information on the web about that. It's, they really didn't do hardly anything. They just said they did. This is a white paper, the neuroscience of social media. And, if anyone wants this link, I can send it to them. It's about a 9-page document. And it explains how the neurons in your brain connects to these applications and what they use to exploit them. It's a whole lot of science, and it really does terrify me that we figured that out, and we're using it against our own population for money. So I ask you again, do you think it's dangerous?
Yes.
So what can we do to combat this as individuals?
Disregard it.
Yeah. Keep personal information offline, unless it's on a secure network. Easiest way to tell you're on a secure network is there's a little tiny lock on your browser. If you're using Google Chrome, it's going to be in the left-hand corner of your browser. If you're using Firefox, I believe it's on the right. It'll be just a little lock, and it'll be locked. If it's unlocked, then you know it's not locked. But if it's locked, then you're good. If it doesn't have a lock on that, then chances are it's got other third-party apps running behind it. So just be aware of that. Don't use the share button, like button, share button, any of that stuff. If you're using it for personal use, like you guys said, y'all had some likes on your Facebook stuff, on your Democrat page, stuff like that's fine. You know, when it's a personal page, you don't really want to like things or share things. You can actually go and copy and paste the link itself if you want to share something, but that'll keep Facebook from being able to track that information that, oh, okay, well, you're sharing this information about climate change, you know, we're going to be biased in this. Whichever way you share it, we're going to be biased about it. Limits who sees your personal post. If you go home right now and you right click on your name and you hit edit privacy, it should show you whether or not you're a public Facebook page or a private Facebook page or a friends only Facebook page. If you're public, it literally means that anyone in the world can get on Facebook right now, type in your name and find you. That easy. If it's set to private, it's only private to third-party vendors. I could still get online and find you if I knew your specific Facebook tag. I could still find you. If you set the friends only, then literally only your friends list, people on your friends list are allowed to see anything you post, any pictures you post, or anything like that. And the whole personal information thing, a good way to share your photos and stuff, because like, I use Facebook. It's not like I'm not on Facebook. I use it all the time. It's just you have to be conscious of what you put on there and how you put it on there. If you post a picture of your daughter's birthday or something like that, don't put her name. Like, don't put her full name or anything. Give her a nickname if you want to. But once you put her name up there, in correlation to that photo, Facebook takes that information and says, yep, now we know who your daughter is. Mm-hmm. And they do that. My daughter already has a profile set up, but it's just because she's been on social media apps before. She watched our stream and stuff like that. So if she clicks on anything, it's automatically tracking what she is, and she's only 9. That's really aggravating me. I don't like that. Another thing we can do is use a media bias chart. This website has been fact-checked a billion times, and they're a non-profit firm. They have all sorts of scholars around the world that study this stuff. This is a good chart. It shows you the biases of different companies. I mean, like, no offense to CNN, but as you can see, it skews to the left. And it's a little above the opinion fair persuasion, meaning that sometimes they might stretch the truth a little bit just to make you feel more confirmed in your biases. Most people that watch CNN are on the left. Fox News is on there too. Extreme unfair interpretations of the news. That's pretty accurate. You have stuff up here like AP, Reuters, Bloomberg, and I don't really agree with Bloomberg because he's got a lot of money and has a lot of influence. But at least AP and Reuters or whatever are mostly nonprofit. NPR, I think, is that the national one or is that? Yeah. And what's neat about these media companies, they are owned by pretty much all the same people. So they do dictate the way the news is told. And that's another problem too. When you're trying to find a news story, find the answer, like whether or not this is true or not, the best thing you can do is get on Google and type in that news story as a header. and then see if it pops up on other channels. Like if you hear that Joe Biden launched a missile last night, killed 10 people, and you type that into Google, and the only news source you find is Fox News that explain that, the chances are it's not true. But if you get on there and all of a sudden all these major corporated media outlets are telling the exact same story, then chances are you've got pretty accurate information. There's obviously always going to be information we're not privy to, and we just have to accept that. But to be able to deter what sounds like fact or fiction is really what we're after. You can use these 10 steps. Like I said, well, I guess I'll come over here. Super hard to read. But do a visual assessment. Like I said, look at it. First off, does the website look phony? Does it have a whole lot of ads on the side that are trying to get you to lose weight fast or meet local singles in the area? Like if that's all down the side of your website talking about the election being stolen, then chances are you're not on a real website. You're on a phishing site. Identifying the news outlet, like I said, that's an easy one. Checking the web domain is kind of hard. You can actually take the whole domain, copy it, put it into Google, and then put bias behind it. And it'll actually search for all the different sites that are talking about this and which way they skew. That's kind of nice. Identifying the author, I always type in their name in Google, find out where they work, and then I find out who owns that building, and go from there. Researching the authors are extremely a good idea, because most people, they have to dot their I, they have to put their name on whatever they put online. Most stuff you can't just post it, it's staying. Let's see, a central message. Most of the time, if it's really radical, like if it's trying to point you to one side and not trying to make an example. Like if it skews all the way to the left or right, then chances are you're not on a good site. Most of the time, news is bipartisan. Most of the time, it doesn't matter which side it's on. It's reporting. Spelling, grammar, punctuation, you're going to look for that. That's an easy one to look for. If you see a bunch of mispronounced words or wrong explanation points in the right place, you know that it's probably not real. Sources, quotes, you can type those into Google and find them. Like I said, find other articles, and you can turn to fact checkers like Snopes and I forget what the other one's called. Factcheck.org. I rarely use fact check websites, believe it or not, because most of the time they just tell me what I know already. But honestly, we can't stop this. That's the most disappointing part about this. And the reason why I did this way, because I can't teach anything about cybersecurity without people knowing that it's kind of unsecured. Anyway, there's no regulation for tech sectors, allowing tech companies to continue to manipulate perspectives to drive their for-profit business models, regardless of the moral or ethic aspect and threat it poses to society as a whole. Freedom of speech is extremely hard to handle online. It's a virtual world. How do you govern that? So free speech is actually one of the big reasons why we can't govern the tech sector. And it's a tricky subject. I don't know how we'll get around it or how we'll work on that. Well, I kind of do. Even if you secure your accounts with these platform settings, like you go, like I said, in privacy and change your privacy to private and everything like that, Facebook will continue to track you on the other sites that use your data to learn how to bring you back to those. Meaning that if you're on Snapchat, you got rid of all your other social media apps and you just use Snapchat. Snapchat will work on feeding you back to Facebook. It'll feed you information to help you persuade, like, man, I'm missing out on what my friends and family are doing, or man, I wish I could see this news story. It's only available on Facebook and stuff like that. They try to rope you back into these things, and believe it or not, I had Facebook deleted off my phone after I gave up when I was trying to convince people that Corona was a real thing and COVID was coming and that people need to wear masks and stuff. I gave up on society because they just weren't helping my mental health. So I deleted Facebook and took 6 months off and just did stuff with my family and stuff like that. But I have the applicant. I couldn't tell you how it started. But don't lose hope. decentralizing our financial institutes with blockchain and cryptocurrency while stepping back from the primitive notion of winner takes all to start reversing the effects that are out of control today. Like you said, I'm interested in cryptocurrency, and the reason being is because it's on a blockchain, which is a ledger, meaning that if you do a transaction on there, it has to be approved by every single ledger on the entire network. And once that happens, it becomes solidified as a block on that chain, and it can't be changed. If we could transition our financials to something as secure as that, then government has no control. They have no incentive to take, steal, or manipulate markets against us. And that's all this for-profit stuff is that it's just how much money can I make regardless of the implications it has on everyone else. There's no singular fix to this issue. The housing crisis, the racism in America, the political atmosphere, all of this. Yes, sir.
So, with cryptocurrency, so now, only thing you're gonna do is you're gonna get the government out of it?
What it does is it becomes a peer-to-peer net. Right now, our banking systems are centralized by the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
So the government controls your bank. If you break the law, they'll freeze your account and you can't get out.
Right.
Yeah. Blockchain technology is a peer-to-peer network, meaning that if I was to give you $10 of cryptocurrency, I would just give you $10 of my cryptocurrency from me, my wallet, to your wallet.
Right.
There is no third party that has to look at that.
Right.
There's no bank controlling it. It doesn't go to the bank and then they send you like a IOU for a few days.
Right.
It's a direct payment from person to person.
Yeah.
And that type of technology is already being used in lots of sectors that people don't really know. It's been used in the medical field for 20 years. So blockchain technology has been around for a while, and cryptocurrency is fairly new. It's 10 years old.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in that, it's definitely, if you're interested in getting government out of your financial pocket, I guess,
But see,
it's definitely worth looking at.
here, we can't get the government out of nothing here because we are the government. The people are the government here.
Well, that's
See, now how are we gonna keep paying for our roads, our infrastructure here, and we're gonna have people paying into that there?
well,
See,
believe
that's
it
a
or
lot
not,
of people get stuck like, see.
yeah,
Our
I
government
agree.
is on people and for the people.
Yeah.
That's our government.
Yeah,
And when you wanna get the government out of something, you losing out all around.
yeah.
You got to have the United States government.
I'm actually, I don't know what you'd call me politically, but I'm in favor of government that works for its people. I'm not in favor of government that works for the dollar bill right now. So, the U.S. government is actually making a cryptocurrency right now. It'll be a stable coin for the U.S. dollar. And when you do that, I guess people will stay with it, because I agree taxes and stuff are important for society to run.
Yeah.
If no one's paying into it, then nothing's getting done. And we can't really rely on private business to do it because they're just not equipped to do it anytime soon. And due to the way capitalism runs right now, they don't care about doing it. I mean, like, Domino's was filling potholes to make their pizza not get ruined as they took it to your house. That was a good sign that maybe businesses could actually take over what government does, but they didn't. All they did was did a few cities to make their money, and then they abandoned the project. So private business, in my opinion, is not ready to take on that kind of work. So taxes are still, in my opinion, I'm not really a socialist, but I kind of agree with some of the socialist tactics that, pay in to make education better, pay in to make your roads better and stuff like that. So I don't really know how we're going to get around everything. In my opinion, cryptocurrency is really early, and the fact that it's becoming more adopted, and the fact that the United States government's making their own, it'll probably be around to stay. So I hope they can figure out the taxes thing on it, because anyway.
That's why all over the world want to come to America, because of our system that we got started up here in America. The government are the people and for the people. Only thing we got to do now is make it for the people, like we're trying to do now with the democratic society.
Yeah.
Bring everybody involved. But see, now the way they've been having the government running now, it will miseducation you and this and that there. But see, when you get everybody involved in one cause saying that, hey, this is America for everybody. We all put in, we all get out.
Right. Well, one of the biggest problems I think we have is that our government no offense to the administration in there right now, but they don't really have the power to do anything that we want them to do on the spot. I mean, they really are being lobbied to death, and they're being penalized for not doing, you know, like our oil companies lobbying against the climate change, against the Build Back Better deal and stuff like that. That type of stuff is really degenerate, and if we had more transparency in our government and the way things work, we wouldn't allow that to happen. Ain't no way. If the common person was aware of how much money they spent to lobby against stuff like that, there ain't no way we'd settle with that. And right now, there is no transparency in government. We just have to take whatever brought to us through the news, which is obviously being manipulated